Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to week 13. Kind of moving around, still in the 20th century, at least the first half. We'll get the second half and the present as we go through. We don't have that many weeks left, but kind of we started this as sort of these conflicts. I mean, which very much shaped the first half of the 20th century. But there are also a lot of challenges. So we've talked about sort of these cause and effects. So this week we talk about the effects of some of these conflicts. Start with sort of this reaction to World War One, the sort of age of anxiety that there was a sort of belief that, hey, everything's going well, these empires are flourishing, we have these new technologies, and then World War One kind of brings that out, brings everything down. You see that reflected in art and literature. I gave you the example of T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. If you look at the poetry and literature and art prior to World War One, there's definitely sort of optimism there. Afterwards, there's a reality, sort of a pessimism of what did we do? How did this happen? And the reactions to that. You see that and I kind of gave examples of that in art and literature. New forms of science. I mean, Einstein and his theory of relativity is breaking apart sort of this Newtonian world, right? That Newton and laws of observable physics, right, is changing with Einstein and these other things. So there's a lot of breakup, a lot of challenges there. And then globally, or you have this idea of nationalism. That's why we talked about nations, kind of introduced that and saw how they sort of spread, particularly in the Americas. Sort of the first phase of decolonization in the Americas. The second phase really comes in after World War One. This concept of self-determination starts to kind of foment throughout the rest of the world. A lot of people were saying, "Hey, why can't we be nations?" So you get a lot of independence movements. India is a good example of that. I gave Gandhi's "Quit India" speech. So this kind of like this idea of not participating in the Britishness of India and taking it back for yourself. Gandhi very much advocated sort of nonviolent resistance, a point that's been brought up and emulated since his time. Martin Luther King is a good example of that, replicated in other movements as well. But there was also people who advocated very revolutionary, violent overthrows of imperial systems. And this is all kind of coming up in this middle period here between the wars. A lot of this will come to fruition after World War II. But this kind of lays the groundwork for that. And then World War II, we sort of talked about the dynamics of World War II last week. Now we can look at some of the cultural, social aspects of it. Things like the atomic age that is definitely shapes the rest of the 20th century with the introduction of atomic weapons, nuclear energy, issues of genocide with the Holocaust, and sort of people's visceral reaction to that, and the attempt, how for better or worse, to limit those, and not that humans have been perfect on it, but at least there's this concept of trying lessons we can learn from that. Whether we do or not is up to us, but at least we have that. We can study how people were able to sort of demonize groups within societies, and hopefully the idea is that we can then learn to if those words, ideas, concepts get repeated, we can at least try to limit that or stop it before it gets out of hand. Nicholas Winston, I gave that video of him, very touching moment that he took it upon himself to help these kids get out of there. Similar, you see that. It's not just. I gave the example of the Japanese internment in the United States, and it didn't go as far as into extermination camps, with this idea that certain groups can be demonized, and then the Japanese were dispossessed of their possessions all throughout the West Coast, relocated to camps, and people have memories of that today, who grew up there and lived that. And then also the other shift of that will very much shape the rest of the 20th century, this idea of women moving out of the home to the workplace. It happened in World War I, and kind of, and then women sort of went back into the home afterwards. After World War II, there will be a shift, at least in sort of Western cultures, of women taking a more active role in public sphere, if you will. So I gave some videos on those as well, but a lot of changes going on in the 20th century, early parts of the 20th century, which will resonate and have ramifications. The effects are still being felt today, which we'll get to as the class progresses, or actually winds up here. And then this week, just a discussion question. I gave you 3. Just kind of focus on one. Just pick one of those. Tell me what you think, but also make sure you're including examples from the course materials as well. So I think that's it. Have a good rest of your week.